Welcome back to another TSMA Truth Seekers Mastermind Alliance. And if you are new here, welcome to this beautiful soiree of continuously seeking the truth and gathering together so we can talk about different conversations that people don't really have, get to uncovering deeper truths rather than just going for surface level truths, right? There's so many people, especially in different types of religions, denominations, that just don't go into certain conversations. Even holy books, the Holy Bible, the Quran, whatever it may be, they don't go into certain conversations whenever it talks about the dead, whenever it talks about spiritual entities all the way, right? And it's up to us to also use the portion of understanding what we know about the Bible, the real truth, and utilizing it to help uncover what we are currently experiencing, have experienced, or things that are just not uncovered yet. Okay, so it's a little quick intro because we are jumping right back into the episode. This is the part two recording that we had previously done. It was supposed to be a whole conjunction hour and a half long episode, I think a little longer, but we cut it a little bit short just so we could split it up in a testimony version, as you can see in this here itself. Okay, so we got Lex's testimony that we posted a couple days ago, and now we're gonna go into Hector's testimony a little bit. But let's go into it and just get right into it. All right.
So there's a lot of stuff, but heck, I know you have things that you haven't said.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I know, I'm saying, like, there's different things going on with you, and I would like to at least get a snippet from you and not, just kind of help me get out of the vibe I'm in, and
Yeah.
us maybe we're feeling.
I'll give two snippets actually.
Well,
Um,
good story time. Let me get some. Ooh, okay.
so I've actually I've previously had this conversation too in on Heck versus Hell, one of the little hidden episode series.
Wait a minute,
But
you have a
I've
hidden episode series where?
yeah, I think there's only two right now, but
¿Qué pasó? ¿Qué pasó?
yeah. Um, but it's kind of in a similar context of the severity of the situation. However, once we get to now, I guess, because I don't want to go and repeat those stories. If you want to listen to all of them, in detail, go over there. But there have been some that I haven't shared. So, and a more recent one. And a more recent one, but I will do to capitalize and go off of this situation. I've only had these experiences because I never really had too many experiences in the way I was upbrung, I guess, because I was around so many people and there was constant commotion and problems already. And I believe that's another thing too, is whenever you're in a point of living in the world so much and you already have so many things just overtaking your problems, you don't get to experience those certain situations and circumstances because you're already having these external factors come and lead you away from seeking and finding the truth, right? Of going and getting to that evolutionary and elevationary point of
Amen.
becoming. So it wasn't until I actually started walking with God that I ended up having sleep paralysis, right? As many people know it as. And the first time was actually, I want to say, almost a month exactly after I had my encounter with God behind bars. And it was really beautiful, really amazing encounter. And that other sleep paralysis situation, well, to paraphrase it a little bit, I remember I have a niece, right? And I was living with my niece and some closer extended family at the time. And she had came and knocked on my door. Well, not even she didn't even knock. She just walked in, right? And I was like half asleep. And I call this kind of like an in-between stage because you're not asleep, but you're not fully awake in the flesh, and it's almost like a soul parameter, I guess a soul dimension in a way where everything is the same except your real senses are enhanced. You can feel vibrations, you can be in a different state of mind to where if somebody goes and even starts walking near you, you can know exactly who it is and how they look, even to the point of understanding the clothes that they're wearing. And that was my first experience with that. And I had gone, I'll just rephrase this first one, but well, restate it, re-testimony it, right? I had her come in and I was still kind of in that sleepy, kind of groggy state of mind, and she had stood by the bed, and someone, like a little boy, I want to say just around her age at the time, she was what, maybe 3 years old, and a little boy around her age, maybe a year older, came in behind her. And this little boy, I had no idea who he was. It was a little Caucasian baby, probably like 4 years old. And I could tell he had that kind of longer hair like Justin Bieber used to have, right? Kind of hair. And it was kind of like a dirty blonde slash more on the blonde side of things.
You
And I
hung out with Beebs? Wow.
I could just feel, because you were in that state of mind where you can understand and see all this. Yes, I was, Beebs came in my room, and he walked to the edge and the bottom of the bed where my feet are. And she was over here trying to talk to me, but I just couldn't understand her. It was night, it was completely dark, and I just couldn't understand her. A little bit of the light was coming in, but my eyes were closed the whole time, yet I could see the whole scenery of the room. And he was at the bottom of the bed, and she was trying to say something, and I just literally, it was that gibberish, just not being able to understand. And I remember rolling over, and that little boy just grabbed the blanket, and tugged on it and like was trying to pull it off of me. And I'm like, man, what the heck, And I grabbed it and I like pulled it back on me. And then I felt it pull so much harder, like intensely strong. And I'm like, there's no way that's a little. I'm like, dang, this is a strong little boy. And I remember looking down, kind of irritated, like, what's going on, And as I looked down, I just saw a huge dark figure, towering over me. And this thing must have been like 7 feet tall, took take it up the whole height of the room, and it just froze me. It froze me, and I couldn't move. And that was my first experience. And I didn't have its facial features. I didn't have its bodily features. I didn't have any of that as I have in other ones, right? But that was my first encounter with sleep paralysis, and not too long after I kind of, quote unquote, woke up, right? I woke up in the flesh.
So can
So
I ask you a quick question?
yeah,
Sorry,
absolutely.
I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm curious. So do you think it just came in camouflage like that so you would be receptive of it or something? Or
That's a great question. I never actually thought about that. And yeah, it might have just been as a point to intrude and come in, because in the same way, like you said, right? Going off of your experience as well, of how you said you felt, well, mama, how mama felt. She, your mom, she felt how it wasn't,
oh, it's
don't
mama. It's
acknowledge it.
mama. It's mama.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just saying it for, saying it for
La chaparrita, yeah.
yeah, and in that same way, I don't contact, don't, talk to it, don't look at it, don't acknowledge it, essentially.
But what did it look like? I mean, the kid's face, was he like in tune into you or what? Like, I'm curious. Like, was it like looking at you with like weird eyes or
It was on a mission. It was on a mission. It didn't even look at me. It knew exactly where it was going.
really?
And yeah, yeah, it just walked past her, almost like a nosy kid, right? Like, what's in here, But
Mm.
except it was on a mission. It didn't even acknowledge her. It didn't stop behind her. It didn't touch her. Just walked right past her. Went exactly to the bottom of my bed. Knew what it was doing. And yeah, it very well could have been that same thing of me giving it that acknowledgement, and even using something I was familiar with to open that door in a sense. But ultimately, that was the first one. I don't know how many I've had after that. Hasn't been over 50, of course. It hasn't been that many. But ever since then, now I know when it's going to happen to an extent, because I can even feel it vibrationally sometimes before it even happens, when I'm still here awake in the flesh. But whenever I am in that in between state, because you really can't tell the difference between whether you're fully awake in the flesh or you're in that state of being. And now I can tell whenever I'm in that state of being because my ears just ring, like they feel flooded in the way of, I don't
Mm.
know if you've ever had that kind of underwater. If you go underwater and you have water in your ears and it just like,
Uh,
that's how it feels.
yeah.
That's how it feels in my ear. And there was another experience at that same location, that same room, maybe a year later or so. I can't remember. Maybe not even that long ago. But it was still at that point in time. That was what, a couple years ago. And I had a different encounter where I was in that state, but in a similar fashion. It was the in between state. It was dark, some light coming in from the outside, because I had big windows and stuff like that. Except this time, whenever I was in that and I kind of, was conscious of being in there, I was next to a man, and the man was laying next to me, and it looked like the main depiction of what people describe Christ to be. Right, and I remember it was, it was a skinny man, kind of white texture, white skin color, abs and everything like that. And I remember feeling his abs and stuff like that. I don't even know why I felt him, but I was, kind of like a Thomas situation whenever he said, okay, well, if I can't feel you, you're not real. And that's kind of what I did. I felt his abs in the sense of how Thomas felt his side. But it was, I don't even know what exactly it was, but not that long after, I was kind of conversing with him. And not too long after, and I didn't have that sensation of malice. I didn't have any feeling of evil or anything like that. I didn't have any of those notions at all. And not too long after, there was a Rottweiler. It was like a nasty Rottweiler, and really, it was like a hellhound. And there's been so many people that describe that and talk about different types of hellhounds that I've heard over the past. Nobody's really gone into it, but it was a Rottweiler, and it was just evil. With like kind of a rabid nature. And so it was just rabid, and it kinda hopped on the bed, and it was, like, barking like it couldn't get to me, and, that man was sitting right there beside me, and I was really thinking it was Christ. I never looked at the face, and I don't know why. I never looked at the face. It had the long hair, it had the kinda robe, it had the depiction of what we see Christ as on the cross. So that dog, it kind of hopped on the bed. This is something that I've really never told anyone. I think I told you actually previously, but it hopped on the bed, and it was right there barking in my face. And I remember that the man was kind of telling me what to do. He was saying, "Well, go and put your hand right here." I believe I can't remember exact detail of how it went down, but I can remember it. I put my hand almost where its chest is, but a little bit higher, like where the chest goes into the neck, the esophagus, right? And I put my hand right there, and it silenced the barking. Almost like a pressure point. And I didn't do anything. I just kind of put my hand there, and I remember reaching kind of in a weird way. And I remember taking something from it, almost like a ball. And it was, that man was directing me on what to do. And I remember he was telling me to ask the dog something because, I knew that that thing was possessed with something, that it was more so of a incarnation of an entity.
Did you tell me that, right, or no?
I believe I did, but I don't know if I went into so much detail. I might have told you. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure I did because I feel like I remember relaying this story to
Story
you.
time.
Yeah, but I had gone, and it. Then the man told me to ask it. He was kind of teaching me those things, and he would told me to ask it different questions, and I can't remember exactly what the questions were, but it was, I was just sitting right there on the bed, crisscross applesauce, no fear at all whatsoever. That dog right there barking in my face. I could feel the force and power behind that dog. Like if you would encounter a real Rottweiler in your face as big as that staring at you, it coward in the form of the strength that that dog possessed. So in the same way, it was he was telling me to ask it questions, and I can't remember exactly what questions it was, but there was one question, and it was the final question, and he told me to ask him what he wants. I think one of the questions was what's his name or something like that, but what he wants was the question that I finally asked, and I asked the dog. And after that I woke up. And I was still to a point after a long, long time of contemplating and thinking about it and feeling about it and, feeling my emotions and going through it over and over and over. I couldn't tell you that was Christ. And just the unsurety of whether it was him or not lets me know it wasn't. Because, yeah, I had so much safety. I had that feeling of insurance. I had that feeling of security, of not fearing and comfort, but it wasn't Christ. No matter how I felt, I know it wasn't Christ because I wouldn't even question it if it was. And it made me wonder, like, what was the point of that little encounter? But in the same way, it very much could have been that door opening even further of saying, invite it in. What do you want? Because never, whenever Christ was casting out demons, never did he ask, what do you want? He may have asked the name, but it was never, what do you want? Because it really doesn't matter what you want, right? It doesn't matter what they want. I mean, they're bothering, they're, a nuisance, they're in the way. It doesn't matter what they want. And it's something that even just still, and so often whenever I do think about it, I'm like, well, was it, and I kind of, try to ask myself, but even then, it's like, I can't tell you it was. And it's that it was just a crazy experience. But even like that, talks about how Lucifer will come in the form of an angel. So an angel of light. So furthermore, it just goes to show how not powerful, but how deceptive they can be. But going in terms of power, right? This is the second part. Is more recently, and I haven't gotten a chance to speak to other people about this. I spoke to Lex about it because whenever you do speak about it, it gives you a point to remember it. And obviously we can go and have different experiences that we don't tell anybody about that we can still remember. But with me, it goes and helps me exercise it, right? So this was more recently, and it's where I'm at right now. Not that long. It was just a couple months ago, actually. I had another experience, and I had gone to sleep. It wasn't even that late, but I remember I was just facing the wall and I had that ringing again, but this time it was so incredibly powerful and it just in my ears.
Is this the one where I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
this is the one your sister and you experienced, right?
No, no, no. This is
Oh,
myself.
oh, sorry, everybody. I'm anxious. I want to know. I'm just saying, I'm a
Yeah. So
bystander like you guys. I'm innocent to proven guilty.
so this time, like, it was the same routine, the same pattern of knowing I'm about to go in it because I feel it, ready, knowing I'm about to have that encounter because I feel it in my ears. And I had gone and it was so heavy, like it literally made me feel like I just don't even want to be alive because of how heavy it was. And it's insane to even think about it and go back there because it's just the ringing of the ears, just the heaviness of that. And it wasn't even in the room yet. And once it appeared, I felt the heaviness. It was just on a whole different level of anything I've ever encountered before. And I truly believe that was the devil himself. And if it wasn't, it was very one of those that are, in that top hierarchy
Mm.
because the heaviness was just incredible.
Now you had to think about atmospheres too. You know,
Yeah, absolutely.
we should have a
Absolutely.
conversation about atmosphere because I'm telling you right now, just like me having all that trauma and different stuff that came along with my own atmosphere. Yeah, I get you completely. Oh, I'll remember to remind me. No snippet, but I mean that's to interrupt you. I'm sorry about that, but remember, I have to. I just thought about it to connect the what happened to my mom and what happened to me later on. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I forgot to tell them that the first time because I'm like, well, I'm supposed to wrap it around, but it'll get there. Anyway, this is better because I want to know what's going on with the heaviness with you.
Well, yeah, yeah. I had I don't even know what exactly it was, what was going on, but I remember the just the heaviness, and
The
it
pressure,
was so.
like, did you feel like the air was.
It felt like gravity increased by 5x.
Oh wow.
Because of how whenever it entered the room,
Mm,
because whenever I first felt the ring, so it went from the stage of feeling the ringing, and that's how it always starts. It's like a ringing slash, ear. I don't even know, ear pressure. It's ear pressure more than anything, and it was so heavy to where it literally made me want to not be alive.
oh
That's how heavy the ear pressure was. And
wow.
when he stepped in, that's how heavy my body felt. Literally, it felt like my body was trying to not be alive itself because of how heavy it was. So it went from my mind feeling that to my body feeling that to where I did actually that's one of the few moments that I can say I felt a degree of fear. And I remember having an angel speak to me in my ear
Mm,
saying, "Don't move. Don't even try to acknowledge it. Don't try to move any type of way." Pero yeah, it was just crazy. And whenever I saw it, because I have a little blue light that comes in from my mini fridge that I have. I have a little blue light that just comes and shines on my wall very faintly, but that whole blue light was just gone. And should have been able to see a little bit of portion of it, but that thing was just so the malice, the evilness that I felt on it, it was just insane. And I remember feeling it had one of those devil tails, the same way that they depict them in different, pictures and drawings and portrayals, everything. And so I felt it have that kind of tail, the same original depiction of what people depict the devil as with that whole spiky tail. And it was just slithering, and I felt him just staring me down, just using that presence to put fear in me. And it worked. I'm not gonna lie, it worked to a degree. And I was
mm,
trying to, I couldn't even pray because of how powerful that was. And that's insane. It's insane that they can have that much power. How really heavy they are. Those real encounters, and I always knew that. And that's actually a conversation that you and I had previous to that experience of knowing that any and every evil that is done in this world, it doesn't even touch the surface of what pure evil really is.
mm.
We can go from Epstein's Island to different types of, situations, to torture, to, these don't even scathe the surface because I can really feel it. And it wasn't until I had that encounter that it fully confirmed it. The only difference is that they are not authorized to use that sort of power all the way. They can use a degree of it, they can use a certain amount of it, but it's ultimately got to be watered down through us as humans. So that's why whenever we see different types of possessions too, right? Whenever we talk and see different types of possessions, they become extremely powerful to an extent of what they can do, what they're capable of, right? So many stories of people going and climbing the walls, being human, and having these different situations of things that we would believe is just not possible, having bodies levitate.
Yeah.
It's that interaction. However, since we are still human and living in that form, especially considering that those humans that do get to the point of being quote unquote possessed, they don't have the foundation or beingness of evolving to the magnitude of the spiritual beings that we are created to be. Therefore, they cannot use their power even then to their fullest extent.
I see your point.
So
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, those experiences, those allow us to know, and they're real reality checks of knowing, yeah, hell is unimaginable. And when Christ describes it, Christ always talked in parables, and he was the one that said, hell is going to be fire. And it's a point of analogy, but the feeling, the heaviness, imagining something like that, a complete severance of God, of everything that is good, would be the opposite. Every relationship that we have, that we get to cherish, every moment where we smile, where we laugh, these are moments that come from God, because we are created in an image of God. Even those people that are so far gone from God, they even still get to and are allowed to experience those moments of God's creation, of God's gifts. For every good thing is sent from heaven, right? So it's really unimaginable. And in parabolic sense, that's the best way Christ could put it, is fire. It's not just going to be fire, it's going to be a whole different level of just pure agony. So that in itself, that's kind of that's kind of scary, of knowing what it would be like to live without God. That's a whole different level. But yeah, I would love to hear how you're gonna wrap it around. I know you weren't
Now you're
finished
gonna
with
just
yours.
jump out of there, huh? I was getting no, it's good. We definitely should get to wrapping up this time. But that I could have heard another at least an hour more. It was kind of like I want to get my blanket and get some like cocoa and be like, oh, I don't want to go to sleep. I'm a little nervous. It's that feeling in us. I mean, do you think though? I mean, from what you said, piggybacking off that, do you think that? I mean, it's a part of our correlation of how it draws from us as well, from the magneticness that we feel. Maybe it knows that we're not aware of how powerful we are because of the breath of God put in us. Like that's where its power lies in.
100%.
And then at the same time, we've been so conditioned by watching movies and different things as well over the fear we should have instead of what we should call on for the fear it will have. Like it's like, oh, you should have this fear. There's nowhere to run. You just have to go and find some witch or some guy in a priesthood and try to pray it away. It's never call on God. It's always call on Saul, like
Oh, absolutely. Better call Saul.
call Saul.
Yeah,
But at the same
absolutely.
time, like that is it's a deep feeling, and I can't wait to hear the audience's conversations. I want to have all of you be able to have a TSMA Alliance family
Hmm.
where we're going to line that up, where everybody can kind of come and tell what has been something that they've experienced that's insane, that to the mind of somebody who doesn't understand that it's not insane, but that feeling, of having that. But to wrap what I was going to say up, for the sake of being able to hydrate and us getting to the next chapter, because this has been a deep one. Deep,
Yeah,
it's
oh,
always deep, but
100%.
it was real good to kind of go back in time and like deconstruct it openly and like talk about it and be like, man, like it kind of hits you in layers. You're like, bruh. And I know all of you listening right now, even if you got out of your car and felt a strange feeling, went to the grocery store, anything, it's probably somebody. Well, what if it's somebody you just can't see? You know, um, everything. I will say that smoothing some Carmex out. My lips fell over, hydration. But to wrap it up, I mean, ultimately, I do believe it was one of us. I don't believe it was my brother. I do believe that my mom was telling me it was myself, or it could have been my sister. God rest her soul. Could have been any of that. But ultimately, I see it as it happened to her. So, I got a chance to text message her and ask some of that information because she was done with her. She just finished the Bible prayer study group, but she had told me, like, yeah, your dad had came in, or she thought it was my dad. He had came in, and then he laid down by her. So excuse me on that. He laid down by her. He didn't just sit, but she felt the impression of him sitting. Then he came to lay by her. But I remember that. I don't know why it skipped, probably because I'm speaking it openly. But I was gonna get you the little filler in. So what I told you was at least 90% on point. But I had to reconfirm it, and she was saying no, like he was laying down by her, and whatever it was, he didn't touch her. That's how it was. Like he always touched her. There's some kind of affectionism, even though she didn't want to be touched. He touched her, and then he always say, "Hey, da, da, da," something, or put his arm around her or something, but he didn't do that time. And she was like, "What the heck?" Like the coldness was still over her. So yeah. And then when his keys finally came in, that she was like, heard his keys again. She was like, "What are you doing here? Like, you're here. You were just here." He was like, "No, I haven't been back." I guess he told her, "I haven't been back to the house tonight," or some whatever he said. But ultimately, like I said, I was 90% on point. But don't get, I mean, it's a lot of things happening. But I think about that though. Now, my mom, the family has had people trying to put roots on them, trying to take them out. Even a woman had told my dad she was trying to put roots on, my mom because they knew she had something on her. They said all the witches in town, literally, the lady was saying that, and my dad was telling me all the women that were doing quote black magic in those neighborhoods at the time were saying how they were dead, dropping like flies every time they tried to go against my mom. And then one of the head ladies, the older lady, was saying there's truly some Marcielo, my dad, was saying there's truly God over your mother because she should have been dead already from what we've tried to put on her. Like we can't touch her, you know. And I remember my dad would find hair and some kind of sticky sap buried in a rose garden with dead fetuses and stuff when he went over there to fix some lady's garden who wanted him to marry her daughter. And because he didn't choose her when he was dating her, she took it very offensively and would also invite him to eat certain meals that she wanted him to bring back for my mom to eat. Um, and my mom was telling him people do put menstruation and blood inside of spaghetti. That is true. That is one of the other ones that go out. There's a lady actually had a YouTube channel. I don't know if it's still up. I came across it somehow one day. Maybe someone sent it. A lot of stuff we get, stuff you don't even believe the videos we've been sent from people to people behind the walls, everything. You're just like, what? Like it's horrible, sad, crazy. It's off the wall. But she was getting different packages and showing the names and the addresses of people. I think she blurred out some, and she was taking all these women. She would put a mask on and gloves, and she had a certain kind of cooking in her kitchen, and she would get gloves, and she would get a sharp butter knife and scrape these women's underwear. She would tell these women, to wear their underwear for a couple of days at a time, whatever. It was yeast, and you can tell. I'm just saying from how whoever those women were, like the one that she did, I'm saying, I'm sorry if you're eating right now, but it would look like baby powder was caked. It was horrible. I was like, whoever is giving that much yeast up, there is something wrong with that person. I'm telling you, that was not okay. Some of it was just yellow, yeasty looking thick cakes. It was ridiculous. So I'm telling you that the sickness within their body, the sickness within their mind, whatever what was going on, it's rooted to that. So I think about that to correlate this. Now, my mom was born with a veil over her face. They say that looked like she had a wedding veil over her face when she was born. Now that was almost 80 years ago, right? Yeah, just about 80 years ago. And the people before then, one of the ladies in town had died, and they were putting different stuff like that for my great grandfather to like fall in love with another woman who wanted him to leave my great grandmother. And it is said when she passed, she was eating the cake that my grandmother tried to tell her not to eat and slapped out of her hand. And she told her don't eat it. And one day she had to go take care of an errand, and she came back too late, and she saw that her mother, which is my great grandmother, had finished a slice of the cake. The woman attempted again, and basically she bloated up so huge over the next few weeks, rock hard, face swollen, everything, and she literally, went out like that. It was like to the point of where it was always some roots in there. And people say it doesn't work. And listen, it doesn't matter if you believe in it or it believes. It's something how the occult or people in that nature, they know how to go by the night. They know how to go by the times. They believe in the spirit world more than you're willing to believe in Christ. They believe in those things happening more than we believe that God even exists. And I'm not saying that they have more power over anything, but you got to be careful what you put in your ears, your mouth, and your eyes see. So I think, I mean, heck, I'm just going to say this to end that off. I really think that it was something that touched me. I believe my dad had something as well into him. And sometimes we can sell off our offspring before we know we sold them. I'm not sure, but the way it touched me, the way it caressed me, it was like, finally, you're here. And so many demonic people who openly worship and try to conjure demons, who openly said this, try to control them, everything, told me, hey, Finally, we got you. We've been trying to find you, and finally you're here. And it's always the same thing with those who are very heavily touched with them. They always tell me, "Oh, we got you now. We're finally here that you're." And I'm like, man, they don't know each other. They wouldn't know each other from a bucket of pail water from the ocean to back. So I'm just like, so many things. So yeah, the veil over my skin, whether it be that with the veil over my mom's face, I think the veil over my skin wasn't more so for back in the times. It was where my mom was, or or I don't know, Reverend T.D. Jakes or Bishop T.D. Jakes, and different people may have done this in their time era, but my skin definitely showed. My doctor said I have the hormones of my mother. He was trying to say, I don't know why your daughter's skin is pitch milk white. It'll even out, hopefully. So the whole thing for me is when it came to see her and those keys, right? The keys, it's like an alarm. And we didn't adhere to the voice that came through. We literally sat there still. It happened in her time with my dad. And this time it actually touched me. I felt like it was marking its territory. I can't really get down deep to where it is right now because my mind is too tired. It's been a very long day and a very long journey so far just to make it to this day in the last couple of weeks. But I will say that it's something that it resonates with me in a different way. And I really wish I knew what that was or who it was. But I think I do know. So yeah, I want to say thank you for listening to this episode. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being amazing. I would say what I say on the RDDC, but I am going to say, remember to be the change, feel the passion, embrace the power of the spirit. This is your host, Lexus T, with the RDDC, hashtag Real Double Dose channel. And you got Mr. Hector Rivera here. I guess Alexis T. Duran over here for reference. And we're here, just happy to be with you all. And it's amazing tuning in. I hope has been something eye-opening for you, maybe resonating with something you've been through. So we both shared. I was learning more things about, Heck's journey. He was learning about mine. And yeah, so I'm gonna let him do the intro to whether he wants to elab and say something before we slide this thing off.
Oh yeah. No, yeah, we definitely want to hear your stories too. We might even have a whole segment of just reading them off or something, going into
Hey,
different
absolutely.
conversations like that. I think that'd be awesome of conversating about that, even including questions if you have any. But of course, these are things that just are not anywhere to be found. These are things that people don't talk about, and this is one of the main reasons that we made this whole syndication as well, because it's things that we have to uncover with ourselves without prior knowledge, without prior people going and doing different studies. And of course, the mainstream form of people are not going to go over these different types of topics and conversations to where
Amen.
they have books and understandings about it all the way. Of course, they do have different types of books that are not at all inspired by the word of God. And that's why this is a great place to be here on the True Seekers Mastermind Alliance. And we hope you enjoy. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will catch you.
Wait. That was perfect timing, wasn't it? Wait. Wait. I was gonna say we might have We're Not Alone Part 3. This might be a series.
We're gonna have a couple. We're gonna have a couple. Yeah.
Try to go up to 5 because honestly, it all goes back, and I want you to know, hey, we're gonna get in, and it's gonna make you understand these topics. And again, we are not alone. Part 3, 4, 5. We don't know. I just want to put that in there. So yeah, stay tuned to what's coming in, and maybe we'll get down to some things other people are actually relating to. We probably might have some emails from you all by then. Definitely, for sure, depending on when this goes out. And I know we had to reach out for some of that stuff too. And I want to have somebody come on here that might be controversial to some people. It's not like I'm trying to put psychic mediums in your head or anything else, but there's a lot of people who, let's just say, they want to be on here.
Let's do it.
All right, Heck, bring us in where you were going to. I'm sorry.
And as always, we will catch you
On the flip
on the
side.
flip side.
Love you all. Ta-ta for now.